Video games! Lots of people enjoy them and nowadays are considered one of the most, if not the most, profitable medium of entertainment. So it makes sense for older, more traditional mediums like movies, television and music to capitalize the popularity of video games as well, right? There's plenty, like the 80s gimmicky but well-remembered song Pac-Man Fever, big budgeted Hollywood movies based on arcade fighting games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and television shows like Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures and the Netflix Castlevania. Are they good? Well, most of the times they're bad. For numerous amount of reasons, most video games adaptation never seem to translate well to the small or silver screen. Don't worry, this isn't going to be another "why is video game movies suck" video. I'm sure you've seen it 100 times now, by people who almost have the exact same reasons as to why video game movies suck, and some would say there will never be a good adaptation of video games at all. Which is
wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong.
Personally, I'm getting sick and tired of people using the exact same examples to claim that all video game movies and shows are bad, ignoring all the good examples that exist. I guess they did that so people can watch their negative videos instead of their positive ones. But this YouTuber, named after an animal, which retrospect is pretty stupid, is going to buck the trend and actually cover as much video game adaptations as I can so I can show you both the good and bad so you at home can decide for yourself if you're interested in watching. But please, if you don't mind, please watch only the good ones. The bad ones, I'm not joking, they're really bad. But enough rambling. I am Kem the Chameleon and this is Pixel to Film, where we analyze and critique video game adaptations. In this video, we're going to focus on the iconic late 80s to early 90s beat 'em up franchise that shook the whole arcade scene, Double Dragon. Double Dragon is an arcade beat-em-up where you play as the twin duo Billy and Jimmy Lee to rescue, I think, one of their girlfriends from the clutches of the evil bad Black Warrior gang. It was developed by Technos Japan and was a spiritual successor to another similar arcade game, Renegade. Double Dragon, just like Renegade, was an early form of beat-em-up genre which was considered innovative for the time. But what Double Dragon added to the table was the usage of co-op gameplay by allowing another player to fight alongside you as a team. You can also disarm enemies of their weapons and use it, which was another new feature that became a staple to the genre. Double Dragon raked lots of cash once it was released in 1987 in the arcade. The game will be later ported to numerous home computers and consoles in its lifetime, with the Nintendo Entertainment System being so popular it would eventually convince the publisher Taito to release sequels on the system, just like its arcade counterpart, released by the original developers. The fourth game, Super Double Dragon, would be released exclusively on the Super Nintendo due to how well the previous game sold on the Nintendo's previous console. The franchise success convinced outside competitors like Capcom to create its own beat-em-up game on the arcade a few years later, known as Final Fight. Sega would also create their own game exclusively on their console, the Sega Mega Drive, Streets of Rage. Without the popularity of Double Dragon, these classic beloved games will probably never even exist at all. With the popularity of Double Dragon soaring around the world, especially in the US, many companies came to Taito's door to merchandise the games. From the 6th issue comic book series by Marvel in 1991, and even the Double Dragon movie in 1995. But what we're looking at today is the Double Dragon cartoon show produced by Dick Entertainment of Inspector Gadget fame, and it was aired in September 1993, December 1994. Why are we doing this? Because it's really weird. Double Dragon the cartoon is your typical 1990s action-packed Saturday morning cartoon aimed at young kids, aimed to sell as many toys as possible to their tiny faces. It's nothing new since shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, and Transformers has been a vehicle for toy salesmen to sell all kind of toys to children, and it's been an effective strategy for decades. Why do you think the all-new Powerpuff Girl reboot existed in the first place? Since video games have captured the mind of the youth at the time, it makes sense for toy makers and animators to use their license to sell toys as well. But with this show, it sort of worked. I mean, the show did become successful enough to have its own movie based on the show, not the game itself, which used the game's license, which is confusing as hell. Also, the show itself only had 2 seasons and lasted only a year on television unless it was on reruns. What's even stranger about this is that there's even a game based on the show, which is based on the game, called Double Dragon 5, which isn't even made by the original devs. And guess what? It's a fighting game. Yes, a game based on the show, which is based on the game, marketing itself as a sequel to the game, which isn't even true, and it's not even in the same genre. What? That's not even the end of it. Technos Japan, you know, the guy that made the Double Dragon games that started all of this in the first place, thought it would be a great idea to make a fighting game spin-off of Double Dragon, likely caused by the release of Double Dragon 5 and release on the arcade, Neo-Geo, and PS1, which was based on the movie, which was based on a cartoon show, which was based on the Double Dragon games, which was made by Technos in the first place. No wonder the franchise lost its popularity in the 90s. I thought the games were just a bit lackluster compared to the competition at the time, but my god, could they pick a different name besides just Double Dragon? The one thing that caught me off guard when watching Double Dragon for the first time is that the creators of the show doesn't give a damn about the following of the story or even adaptation of the original source material at all, except for small few details. In the original, Billy and Jimmy Lee are tough martial art experts fighting off thugs and crooks to save the girl. In the cartoon, Billy and Jimmy Lee are martial artists who have mystical powers to unleash a powerful dragon to fight off and aid the brothers, and even fight with swords. Yes, when I think of a Double Dragon in a genre called beat 'em up, I think sword fighting and magic. Also, the bad guys are not even a criminal gang, they're also a mystical ninja gang. Why? Now I get why Dick changed so much of the source material to adapt to the show. A show that focused on 2 brothers beating up the crap out of a criminal gang member to rescue a kidnapped girl is a bit too much for a young audience. But to change this much to something so unrecognizable, what is the point of even getting the rights to the game in the first place? Let's talk about the betrayal of the iconic duo. Billy is the main character of the series since we often see in his perspective. He's often the serious one of the duo, and since he never shut up about the Code of the Dragon.
Michael, remember the Code of the Dragon. I may only use my power to protect innocent lives from harm. It is the Code of the Dragon.
Make your opponent defeat himself. That's the Code of the Dragon. No, the Shadow Boss lives, but the Code of the Dragon will prevail.
He was taught by his mentor, who in the first episode talks about needing to disappear. I guess it's a metaphor about dying since he's so old and all. But no, literally, he meant it, and he just disappeared out of nowhere.
He's gone!
I'm sorry, Billy.
Oldest dragon, why did you leave me now? You've given me amazing powers, but I am lost without you.
And only came back as a Jedi ghost to help Billy.
Double Dragon is fulfilled.
Oldest dragon!
The legend of the Double Dragon tells us that one day, twin boys bearing the mark of the Double Dragon on their chests will release the power of the dragon's sword and protect the world.
Bitch, are you dumb, dum 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 dum?
Jimmy's a bit more bearable. He's not that different from his twin brother, besides being more sarcastic and angry of the two. The only thing that was adapted from the game was the plot of Double Dragon 1, where Billy must save Marion and Jimmy. It turned out that Jimmy was the leader of the Shadow Gang all along, and both brothers must fight. Sure, it was only focused on that plot around the last few minutes of the episode, but at least it was something. Just like the game, Jimmy would come back as the good guy and help Billy fight the guys. Besides that, the rest of the characters are new, but they're completely flat and uninteresting. Sure, there's characters like Marion, who has the same name as the damsel in distress, but this time she's a cop, so you think she'll be useful, but never mind, she already was kidnapped. There's a Bobo and Wily, 2 boss characters or at least fans could recognize, but after the second episode, these characters were sent to the mural world or something and was never seen again. After the first episode, the show basically became its own thing, and if it wasn't for the name and the Lee brothers, it could have been its own completely different show. The animation is bad too. Dick is infamous for being so cheap when it comes to visuals for the animated shows, but if you're gonna create an action cartoon, at least have a decent budget to go with the fights. The action scenes themselves are not awful but feel completely watered down, especially compared to the original games. Why does an animation of an 8-bit sprite beating up another 8-bit sprite looks far more convincing than hand-drawn animation with far more detail and color? And oh my god, the costumes the brothers transformed to look so bad. Like how do they think that, like how do they think this looks good enough to be in the final cut? I guess even the character artist doesn't give that much of a damn about this show. I'm sorry, I didn't watch more than 2 episodes of the show. I know it's unfair to review, if you call it. I haven't even finished it, but I can't. It's so boring most of the time, and without much comparisons I make to the games, there isn't much of a reason to watch it. Double Dragon cartoon is a dated, generic, boring waste of time that couldn't be asked to be faithful to at least to the themes of the games. But at the same time, they constantly shove you toy advertisement disguised as scenes to try and trick your 5-year-old into wanting an ugly looking car for Christmas. Do not watch this show, not even for a laugh, because it's not even funny. Seeing this is the one that inspired the movie, and the movie inspired the obscure fighting game as a farewell gift to a dying company. I don't know what is worse. This is Kim the Chameleon. Wasted my day watching trash and writing a script, but at least I hope you enjoy watching this episode. If you have requests for me to recover any sort of adaptations of games, leave a comment down below. Signing out.
Make